Well, it's a privilege to be here with you. Professor Marvin Carlson is professor of theatre and comparative literature at the City University of New York. Professor, I have to start with the key question. What is performance?
Oh, yes, that is a key question, although, like a lot of key questions, it doesn't have a simple answer. Let me say, first of all, that performance is a term in English that's used to cover many, many different kinds of things. And so, let me start by saying some things I wouldn't include. I wouldn't include something like performing animals, a performing dog, a performing horse. We use the term. And I wouldn't talk about physical performance, like you say, mechanical, like you say. My car is performing very well. My motor is performing well. The main use of performance has to do with something human beings do. And so there I would say, and I say each part of this fairly carefully, performance is consciously produced human action in order to have an effect on another watching human being. And I say consciously done because if you sneeze right now, this is not a performance.
Of course.
But when you do something with the idea that I'm going to interpret it in a certain way or it's going to affect me in a certain way, that consciousness then makes it performative, makes it a performance. And of course, the other half, in addition to your own consciousness, that's why, in fact, I exclude animals and machinery. In addition to your own consciousness, the other essential part of it is it's for somebody. It's not just when you're shaving at home, it's not a performance. But if I'm watching you shaving, and you know I'm watching you, then it becomes a performance. You're aware of somebody looking at what you're doing and interpreting it in some way.
Wouldn't you put then a sense of intention?
Oh, absolutely. And intention, in a sense, on both sides. That is, you're intending to perform, I'm intending to interpret it as a performance. Obviously, theater, dance, and the so-called performing arts all have this quality, but as theorists have become more interested in performance in general in the last 15 or 20 years, added to our concern with that kind of activity is social and cultural performance, just things that people do, like having interviews.
Well, I think that for most people, of course, when we talk about performing arts, it's more simply to understand. But in everyday life, when we present ourselves, we also represent ourselves.
Yes.
And there's always the ethical question, that is, would you agree to say that the as-if is not opposed to being, but it's an essential part of our being?
Yes, I would agree totally. We work all our lives at creating ourselves. The way we dress, the places we go, the things we do, all of these are part of a more or less conscious ongoing project of how we present ourselves to the world. And you might say how we perform in the world. I mean, when I'm teaching in the classroom, I'm performing as a professor. Now, I may not, if I'm not interested in performance theory or not aware of it, I might not put it in those terms, but I still do it in that it affects the way that I dress, the way that I act, how I move around the classroom, how I relate to the students, and so on. I play that role, and the same, of course, is true of any social role. Doctors you particularly see this in politicians, of course. We're very much aware of this process. And so the way that they dress, the fact that they stand in front of the national flag, that's their stage setting, behind a big impressive desk or a podium with foreign ministers of other countries next to them. All of this is staged, of course. It's like a little play. And any successful politician is really quite aware of this, or the politicians' managers or whoever's making these decisions.
Professor Marvin Carlson, thank you very much.
Certainly. That's great. Complicated question, though.